Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and it's the final video of 2023, and a year it has been, in a lot of great ways, in some of less than desirable ways, but overall, the Game Hub has been a great year this year. Oh boy, I did some great videos, some new stuff has come out, some old stuff has been done, and I'm going to be ending the year the same way I began the year. I went over the first bosses that we fight in a video game, the beginning of the year, and now to end this year, I'm going for the final challenges that every game is known for. Final bosses. And this list is may have been one of my kind of diverse lists. I mean, I'm not saying diverse because it's some of them are all games that either no one knows, but actually this is a playlist of some of the best bosses from some of the best games in gaming. And as you can tell, I'm wearing a Deadpool Christmas shirt. I've got my amazing Pokemon Christmas dress shirt. I got my Grinch pants and Grinch socks. Because it is technically Christmas time during this video, but it is going to be released next week, near the end of the year, because I'm spending the holidays with my family, no video, and it's going to be great. So, I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year to anyone who's even bothered to click on these videos and to also join this cheap Canadian production as he babbles about games, TV shows, and all that fun nerdy stuff, because it means a lot to me that people actually listen to me and actually think I'm a little hilarious, whether they be friend or foe or whoever's in between. So now, going over my list for my top 13 final bosses. Obviously, there's going to be rules. One entry per game series. 2, obviously, it's got to be a final boss, which means after we fight this one, there's nothing afterwards. DLC and post-game stuff not included. Main story only. Also, I'll be ranking these bosses on how well the final boss does its job of implementing everything we've learned about the game, the battle mechanics, everything about the game. The villain has to be somewhat good, obviously, because, again, a weak boss with a great villain is good, but a weak villain with a fantastic... No, wait. I said that first. A great boss fight with a terrible villain is one thing, but a great villain with a terrible boss fight, again, I think I said that repeatedly. I'm in the Christmas spirit. I'm getting a little rowdy. Also, the higher or lower a boss is means that they had a big impact on the story. They had kind of intrigue in the whole story. So the boss fight was phenomenal in both execution, gameplay-wise, and also kind of story-wise, too. That it all makes sense. Because having a boss come right the flip out of nowhere just to have a final boss is kind of awful. And don't worry, next year I'll be getting to the worst final bosses ever later next year, because this is all about the good bosses. So, for the last time of 2023, this is Gamer K's top 13 final bosses. And why top 13? Because here on the Game Hub, only the odd can be number 1. Cheers. Sonic and the Secret Rings. The only Sonic game I played outside of Unleashed that was definitely underbaked. The story was okay, I guess. There weren't too many bosses in this game, which sucked. The very few that we got, the rest of it was just, the track sequences. And again, it was a little difficult when you're a kid playing the game, but as an adult, you kind of look at it and think, was there anything in this game that was good? Except for the gorgeous pink-haired genie girl. Oh, and also the villain of the story. The Eraser Djinn, who is basically one of the best genies. And he got tired of having to succumb to the wishes of mortals, so he decides to steal the story of the Arabian Nights. And the girl Shara, the other genie, brings us into the world, and we gotta stop him from collecting the 7 rings that make up the stories. Seriously, what is it about TV shows, games, and video and anime? There are 7 is the magic number. Oh, wait, 7 is basically that ultimate number, isn't it? Anyway, the Eraser Djinn is the final boss of the game after we collected all the rings, and turns out Shara is technically under the control of the Eraser Djinn near the end. And then after he almost kills us, Shara takes our place. And then the ultimate battle begins. Okay, yeah, the fight with the Eraser Djinn before this is a good boss fight. Wish it went on a little bit longer. But the final boss, holy mother of God! It's refreshing to have a Sonic game where Eggman isn't the final boss. Other than Black Knight, but Josh Scorcher or the Fiery Joker already talked about that one, so I'm talking about this one. His ultimate form after absorbing all the rings, Alpha Wela Walela. This thing is a monstrosity of a boss fight in all the best ways possible. Taking place in this multi-purple, black, moving black liquid shadow dimension where he's the sole giant being in this monstrous form, and Sonic being able to use 3 of the rings in order to turn to Dark Spine Sonic, which is a monstrous form. And I'm kind of sad that we get no lore about it and it only happens at the end of the game. I mean, yeah, like any Sonic boss fight. Final form, final boss, we always get final super move. But this form is absolutely genius. And the whole fight is, again, it takes you to everything that you had to learn about the game, from the speed boost to the slowing down time, and having to move precisely to stop yourself from getting hit from his attacks, which consist of scratches, which highlight and leave the marks, using dark wormholes, where we have to avoid those. And then he uses a spirit bomb attack. Okay, yeah, it's not a spirit bomb attack, but it is a spirit bomb attack. Just saying, where we gotta shake the Wii remote to accumulate enough energy to do speed force or speed boost, speed break. That's what it was, speed break, to knock it back into him, go close to him, and just wail on his weak point. And then the white areas, the white smoky areas along his body, where all the rings are, and there is 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the back. And after we hit him, 3 of them will start to go, indicating his health. So, and then after the final fight, we get an amazing 3D scene that I'm really glad we saved for the final of the game. Oh my God, Sonic at his most badass. Using the lamp, which was basically Shara, technically, to make Eraser Djinn give him his 3 wishes. And the way he does it, he makes a wish, he points the lamp at him, it shoots fire, and it forces Eraser Djinn to make the wish. And I do like how they did it, having him wish Shara back to life first, because, you know, and then he wishes the Arabian Nights stories to be returned, because under the laws of the Arabian Nights, a genie can't wish someone back to life. So doing it in that order shows that Sonic kind of had a little bit of knowledge about the wish. And then he traps Eraser Djinn for all of eternity. I'm sorry, this is the coldest and most badass moment Sonic has ever had in a video game. Bar none. But the reason this boss is on the bottom of the list is because there's really no build up to everything. It feels like they just crammed a whole bunch right for the end and didn't have a lot of story elements implemented into it. I mean, Eraser Jin appears like once in a while throughout the game, but not as much as you would want. Which kind of sucks. So, Eraser Jin, you gave us a great story, a great threat. Now you just have to know that a rat beat you. Puppeteer is definitely one of my favorite games and a constant theme on my channel. What is one of my favorite platform games and one of my favorite fun, kid-friendly games, and it's definitely a game that has the edge it needs to compare to other games, and the final boss is no different. A true example of using everything you've learned from the game and implementing it to taking down the final villain, the Moon Bear King, who has accumulated enough souls of children to grow into monstrous, grotesque size. And the final battle, we basically got to use everything we've learned to take him down. From using bombs on the bottoms of his feet to blocking his claw strikes, to using a hook to destroy his belly button orb thing, and then slicing off bits and pieces of him like he's stitched together. Starting from the bottom up, it is a David and Goliath-ish battle. We are this big, and he's a freaking giant. So I love the symmetry of it, having to slice apart the Moon Bear King and rip all his stitching up. And each boss and each section definitely showcases each skill that we've learned from all the items that we've acquired throughout the game. And it's such a fun boss fight too. On this grand stage of the game, it is done marvelously. And the ending is really interesting. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the ending isn't anything groundbreaking or revealing. But again, it's a great boss fight that even gave me a run for my money at the first time. Having to really understand what to do in each stage. It's just a well done boss fight, and for a great game that will most likely be a running gag on my show whenever I get around to doing stuff like that. But overall, the Moon Bear King is a great final boss, a great villain, and definitely a boss that had me at the seams. Sometimes of ending in a video game can leave a bittersweet taste in your mouth. And overall, in a series where the well-known villain literally steals the show from everyone, as also stated in another video of the Fiery Joker, go check him out. Great YouTuber, fantastic comedy, fantastic opinions. Go check him out. The Arkham series. When it comes to boss fights, there's very far and in between for the Arkham series in terms of great bosses. We're not going to just... Okay, so out of the 4 games here, which one do you... And yes, I do count Arkham Origins because from Arkham Asylum, from Arkham Knight, we do get canon stuff about what happened, so it counts. Which of the 4 here do you think is going to be on the list of a great final boss? Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it. For those of you who know, Joker's not the final boss in this one. No, it's revealed that we get Bassel Carlo, a.k.a. Clayface, from Arkham City. I'm going to be honest. When I first played Arkham City, this threw me for a freaking loop. Honestly, it did. But like Joker said, how do you keep a secret from the world's greatest detective? You stick it right in front of him, right under his pointy little nose, and wait. They literally spelled it out to us right from, like, if you really pay attention to all the little things that happen around the game, you can obviously foreshadow it. From the goon saying that Joker wants you to think he's sick. Then wham, gotcha. You fell for the old fake Joker gag, Batman. And then the copy of a Joker card in the safe for after fighting Mr. Freeze, to when Joker is better on the camera, you can hear coughing from the camera. So, also, any real fan, even if you played Arkham Asylum thousands of times, you know that Joker doesn't call Batman Batman. He calls him Bats. He never calls him Batman unless he's saying something ironic when he's talking to people. He never calls Batman Bats. I mean, that's like me calling E by his first name all the time. Because we've been so close, I call him E because that's what I call him. Just like how Joker calls Batman Bats. Every single time, he always does it. So, obviously, plus, if you want to cheat a little bit during the Ghost Train gauntlet thing between Joker's henchman, Mr. Hammer, and frickin' the Titan, you can detective mode and see that he's got no bones. So, if you want to cheat it, obviously. We did put a spoiler alert at the beginning of this video, right? Okay, good. Just double checking. So yeah, Clayface is the final boss. Been impersonating Joker for a good health of the game, which is awesome. The boss fight, on the other hand, is somewhat okay, but this is a twist done correctly, because the final boss of Batman isn't Joker for once. Because technically we do get him as the final boss for all the rest of the games. In Arkham Asylum, I'll get to that when I get to it. Arkham Origins, we kind of have to do a beatdown section. And then in Arkham Knight, we have to go through this whole thing where technically Batman's the final boss, which we end up losing. So, I guess. But Clayface is fantastic, indicating why he wanted to work with Joker. And he gives a classic actor line, "It's the role of a lifetime." And god damn it, does he not do this role perfectly. Morphing his arms into weaponry, spitting out mud, the clay at us, rolling into a ball, and rolling himself into the dynamite. And then I think it's pretty badass that in the final part of the fight, we use Talia's sword to slice up the clay henchman and to slice up Clayface. It is a theatrical, marvel, and one of the best final bosses on the list. It's a little bit on the lower side because as great as the reveal was, if you weren't paying attention to all those subtle hints, the boss fight itself is dodge attacks, throw ice grenades, and then later you get to use a sword. It's nothing phenomenal that tests you on everything, so it gets a little bit higher on the list, it's a lower on the list, but it's still in the good percentage of boss fights. And I'm gonna say that was a grand farewell to the Clown Prince of Crime from an amazing stand-in. Okay, I already talked about this game at the beginning of the month, but I gotta put these guys on the list again. Falzer and Gregor from Battle Network 6 is my favorite Battle Network final bosses because of three main reasons. One, their boss fights are vastly unique depending on which game you play, because again, they're the final boss of their own game, which is the first time Mega Man Battle Network has done that, having the final boss be different and also be the title character of the freaking game. Gregor using his electric breath, moving around and dropping rocks on you, using his flame breath, and using his Gatling tail to shoot missiles at you. He's an absolute literal psi beast of a boss. And then there's Falzer, who has no panels, his side is completely empty, so using any abilities like area steal or anything like that, not gonna effing happen. Shooting out firebirds at you, missile feathers, scratching his claws at you, sending out a whirlwind breath. These beasts earn their legendary status of the whole Battle Network series. And again, it's one of the only bosses, it's the only final boss in the series where we actually know of them pretty much right from the get-go. Because we see the statues of them and in the net, we hear legends about them. So they're built up pretty big. And then when they're injected into the giant copy bots, oh my lord, was that epic. And being a kid and seeing this, it's even better. And reliving it from playing the Legacy Collection makes it even better. The boss fights are great because they had staying power. They were built up right from the get-go, and they live up to the hype. It's not like an ancient deity in old games where once we revive the deity, the boss fight's kind of lacking. It takes a lot of skill. Plus, each of them has 2,000 HP, which is a detriment if you're not prepared or you're not well-versed in learning how to handle their fight mechanics. And also, we get to use their abilities against them with the Beast Out forms. So it's kind of using the ancient monsters' abilities against them if you're really interested in doing it. Because again, after 3 turns, it's gone. But the side beasts get on this list because of their staying power, their the fact that they're both different in their fight mechanics, and just from being built up from the beginning to the grand spectacle of the final fight. How can I not put a classic favorite of mine on this list? How can I not? Okay, Christmas time, final bosses. I feel like there's a hidden joke in here. Oh yeah! Oogie's Revenge is, again, another classic for me. And the final fight with Oogie Boogie in Holiday Trash Hill. I don't know why this place is in Halloween Town in Christmas Town or... No, seriously, where is this place? Is it like some sort of area? Is it kind of like Mount Crumpet where all the trash from holidays go? And Oogie Boogie being a bag of bugs and absorbing all of them with bits and pieces of holiday stuff. It's terrifying to say the least. Like, look at this thing. First, we have to fight him in the traditional way with Jack on the ground, Oogie being giant with the surrounding garbage all around us. Literally having to use the pumpkin suit, the Pumpkin King outfit in order to burn some of the gas in order to burn Oogie. Or we can use the fire just to burn him in general. It's an okay start to the finale, but the final is one of the best uses of a mechanic I've ever seen. The game implements this musical section where you have to do QTE with the buttons right in the center in order to pick up with the tone. And if you haven't and every time you fail, like in the previous boss fights, you will lose health. So if you didn't do your diligence and stock up on the health items and to increase your health, and you haven't picked up on how to do the music sections, you're pretty much as screwed as ever. And the final battle being this grand opera spectacle of Oogie Boogie versus Jack in a singing battle when they attack each other. It's just a spectacle. And yes, we've fought Oogie technically twice already in this game. Once at the start and once in the Casino Gauntlet, where because it's different in the story, we do get 2 different versions of the songs, but this one is the grand final. And like I said beginning, we end it with how we began. And it's such a spectacle. Oogie just towering giant more than ever, being filled with so much other holiday garbage, a giant Easter bunny, some patchwork of Valentine's and St. Patrick's Day with a giant Christmas tree coming out of his back, and Jack changing costumes every single verse. And just the grand spectacle of the boss fight itself is a grand finale to one of the best villains I've ever seen in Disney. And they did, this is what I wanted Oogie's Manor to be. But beggars can't be choosers, and once again, Oogie Boogie got taken out with the trash. There's no way of sugarcoating this. The devil from Cuphead. Yeah. Great final boss. Again, not so much story when it comes to Cuphead throughout the game. Collect souls, defeat some hard bosses, literally throw your controller and swear at your television for as long as you can. That's just the basis of Cuphead. And the devil is definitely a grand challenge. Literally shape-shifting forms into a spider, into a dragon, into the literal goat, while having his minions run across the stage, sending out spears and everything at you. It's definitely hard if you're... This is another testament to how skill and a little bit of luck really hinges in a boss fight. And then after we defeat him, he literally jumps out of his skin and goes deeper into hell. Seriously, there's a deeper part of hell? Where we have to fight him as his giant face with floating casino chips as he sends out ear bombs, some of his minions. Okay, I just had to get that one joke out of the way because I do find it kind of hilarious that they implemented that. But overall, and then as the fight continues and he starts to lose, he starts crying like a little shit. But again, the devil. Simplistic, symbolic, definitely a huge testament of what we achieved in Cuphead. But if he's so great, why is he still near the mid of the list? Because if it wasn't for one certain boss fight later on that literally made people scream at the top of their lungs, he would have been higher if I released this video like last year or something. No, wait, it came out last year. So you get the point. The pitchfork point. Okay, do we get no sympathy for the devil, or am I constantly going to have to sell my soul to make these satanic jokes? Hey, I didn't say they were all good. That's another dollar in Josh Scorcher's Kingdom Hearts list jar. Kingdom Hearts 2. My very first Kingdom Hearts game. Yes, I know. I never beat Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm still mad about that, but I've let it go. And also, I had to use, I needed one of my friends' helps in order to beat Xemnas, which I realized I never equipped any abilities that I gained or changed keyblades or anything. So I was basically fighting him like I fought every other boss up till then. Fighting Demix, and then my friend showed me how to do all that, and then I wanted to replay the game in order to, do what he told me. So, yeah, but grand game, grand sequel, and what a fucking way to go out. Xemnas is one of the best final bosses in gaming, and all honesty, in Kingdom Hearts in general. Having first doing our solo fight on that skyscraper. Sorry about that, guys. Camera died, had to recharge, and upon further investigation, I was wrong. The skyscraper fight isn't in the final boss, and that is on me. for not remembering as well. Again, it's been years since I played Kingdom Hearts 2, so a lot of pieces get mixed up and jumbled. So, technically we do use skyscrapers in this fight, so technically I'm kind of right, where we have to fight this giant dragon energy station thing, which gives us some great animation reaction commands with those using those skyscrapers and sending them into the wings of the dragon, which again is so freaking badass. Then we get the Armor Xemnas fight, and then we get one of the best fake outs ever, mostly. And then also, I got to give a shout out to Paul St. Peter, who is the voice of Xemnas, for giving us a unemotional, emotional performance. If that makes any sense, because Xemnas is one of the best, my favorite Kingdom Hearts characters in general, villains in general, and overall. And then after the fake out, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Kairi leave in the dark portal. And then the fake out is done, and then we get the giant dragon. Why is it always a dragon? We literally get... Yes, I apologize for making the mistake already. It's the holidays. I haven't played the game in so long. Can't you just let it go? What do you mean this is my only mulligan? I swear to God, next year I'm going to find out how you're doing this and I'm going to turn you off. So, riding on a duo space motorcycle thing, we defeat lesser enemies, charge up the laser, and release a freaking laser beam on this dragon. Since when do small vehicles like that have giant lasers? Which again is great. And then we get into the fight again against Armored Xemnas once again, where, like in the previous fight, he uses some of his other Order members' weapons, such as Demyx's water clone, Zigbar's rifles, Zaldin's spears, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then after that, we get the amazing boss, final boss, in his amazing different colored attire, in this alternate all-white crazy dimension. And it's just a grand spectacle. And the music that plays and the atmosphere just gives this final boss an edge on almost every other boss fight on the list. Almost. And having to use reaction commands in order to get Sora out of trouble, and we playing as Riku for a little bit, is great. And he implements that asshole-ish reversal command that we had to do almost 1,000,000 times with the Dusks. And then right at the end, we get one of the most thumb blister inducing scenes ever. The laser beam sequence that is as epic and as cinematic, as badass as it is. And again, the thing that makes this final boss so great is that the rest of it, where it really counts, is just Sora and Riku. Having them be a part for every single boss fight throughout the series, unless you count the first Parasite Cage boss fight, which I don't, because Riku does shit all. So this is the first time they are fighting together after being separated for a year. So in doing that, they give us a great boss fight, and a final moment where the Keyblade energy goes right through Xemnas, and then we finish him off. Most boss fights would just have that be the end, but no, we actually get to deliver the final blow ourselves. And then we get one of the best death scenes. No freaking monologue. No, we're not so different, you and I thing. Or I will come back thing. None of the cliches. Just Xemnas energy running out. His reaching last desperate grasp. And then he just fades away and accepts it. So again, why is he so middle if this boss fight was so grand? If they didn't botch him up in Dream Drop Distance and then in number 3, it's like having Mozart be finished and then you start to play some crappy music and completely eliminates the mood, making what you did before literally not matter anymore, and it just becomes annoying knowing that this still exists. So yeah, great final boss when I was younger. Still a great final boss if you take away the other sequels into consideration. Xemnas, you may have been a nobody, but you're definitely a somebody in my list. Like I said, twists rarely get me. But Persona 5 got me huge. After defeating the final jackass on this list of irritating adults, everything's not good. Everything is so not good. We discovered there's one last villain to fight. The grand manipulator of everything. And I'm gonna be honest, this Persona 5's twist villain isn't as clear as to the entirety of motives. Basically, we were being bet on by two gods who were pitting against good and evil. And it turns out the dude who was supposed to be helping us the entire time turns out to be the grand mastermind that was screwing us over. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically, in the prison of Mementos, yes, technically it is a prison because every level is something that stuff can be stolen from a castle to a museum to a bank to a pyramid to a spaceport to a casino to a cruiser, and now technically we're breaking into a prison just to steal the ultimate treasure, the Holy Grail, which has imprisoned the masses and put them in their cells where they are content with doing nothing with their lives, just having something dictate their lives for them. So the Holy Grail gains of energy from all those imprisoned people, including the villains of the game, who after we stole their heart, they went right back into the prison. So I guess they found their, wait. How does that work? If some of them have had these palaces for years, and then when they're gone, they go right back into the prison, it's a big kerfuffle for me. But after we die in an unwinnable fight, we are brought back to the Velvet Room where we are revealed that Igor is the villain. And obviously it gives us the choice either to comply or to fight him. Obviously I'm going to go fight him. I ain't being controlled by a god. And then it's revealed that he is the Holy Grail, aka Yaldabaoth. And the Holy Grail is a great final boss fight. And then after having to pep talk our pals into returning. One thing I will admit though, I do love the combination of Mementos with the real world. And that the first time we go into the Mementos prison, that giant door where the most dangerous criminal was our cell in the Velvet Room. So technically he was keeping us locked in because we are dangerous because we were going to stop him. And then we get the final boss with Yaldabaoth. And oh my god, the transformation of that grail into this giant god-like metallic abomination and implementing his weaponry from the 7 deadly sins in order to exact stats effects on us. the god of control. I'm not going to lie, it was absolutely fantastic. It took me several tries to beat this thing. And he's just a top-notch boss fight. The atmosphere of being on the top of a skyscraper with him towering over everything and us having to play real smart with our choices. And you better leveled up and stocked up on high-level personas, or else you're basically going to be screwed. But it's not... and having to deal with all of his weaponry in order to make his ultimate laser attack weak. You gotta debuff him, you gotta buff up your defense, and then just destroy his weaponry using the right character for the job. And then when he defeats us and BS's us, I honestly thought this was an insta-lose boss fight, so I didn't know that until I actually progressed and actually stopped him. But then the masses and every single confidant we max leveled. I love doing the max level and having everyone cheer us on, which is awesome. And then we finally break the chains on our Sen and get Sentinile, that demonic god with a sword rifle. And after he attacks us, nothing works. I would have loved a cinematic moment like this that we got in Persona 5 Royale and then Scramble. I would have loved if in a cinematic cutscene, Yaldabaoth is literally trying to stop us, and everyone in our team just goes on, attacks him in any way they can. Ryuji maybe stomping on him and hitting him with his pipe. On whipping around one of the weapons and swinging. Yosuke taking his sword and slicing clean through the limb. Makoto just delivering a grand punch to the chest, while Futaba gives Mona a lift up and he slingshots another weapon. Haru bringing down her giant axe onto another weapon. Yaldabaoth cursing at them that they shouldn't resist him. All the while, he turns his metallic head slowly and he sees the giant longest gun ever. Like, if Sephiroth had a gun, Sentinile's gun would be that gun. And just go to hell and fires the shell. Like, it would have been so much cooler. But the atmosphere of the boss fight, having to actually plan ahead. Oh my god, I talked about this boss fight too much. Yaldabaoth, great final boss. Although Maruki kind of makes him a little meaningless. Because Maruki is also a great boss fight. I've watched it. Never ever fought Royale because I went through this bullshit once. I ain't doing it again. Great final boss and a testament to no one controls your destiny but yourself. Great final boss. What, you think we're done with a jackass god being a final boss? Hell no! One of my first mature games. I never played the first two. I just went right into this one and yeah. I'm abandoning my heritage again a little bit because this boss fight is the pinnacle of going up against a effing god and literally... You know what? I just gotta get into it. Zeus from God of War 3. This guy is... literally takes... Here comes the thunder. Literally. This boss fight is so cinematic, so atmospherical, so symbolic. First, we have to go up against him at Pandora's chamber with the Pandora's box, try to protect Pandora, where Zeus is threatening her, saying that we destroyed all of the Grecian world just to save this one girl and to literally go for revenge when Kratos' paternal instincts kick in as he's kind of bonded with her during this fight, during this the last bit of the game, which is great, because if there's one thing Kratos would never do is harm a child, which I love fully. And the boss fight is an amazing spectacle. First, going into a 2D section where we literally go all out on Zeus, dodging his electrical attacks, dodging his powerful punches, because again, the only boss fight we have where we're fighting someone who's of the similar statue that actually puts up a fight. And then after all of that, we have to go up further, fight him on a pedestal after Gaia. Oh, excuse me. After Gaia tries to kill us, and then we go deep into her heart, where we fight Zeus in multiple after images of himself, using the Blade of Olympus to strike him down, ramming it right through Gaia's heart. And the fight is still not goddamn over. The third and final part is when we actually get to go all out with every weapon we can and just dodge all of Zeus's amazing electrical attacks. But it's still not goddamn over. After we kill him, the negativity of all the evils of the world come out of Zeus and literally destroys us, eliminating every single weapon that we have and literally killing us. Looking back on all the things that we did up to this point, from God of War 1 to God of War 2, we were chosen the Cretan pottery art style that we got in the beginning of the game, symbolizing everything that we've done up to this point. And then Pandora's words of hope resonate in us, and then we go back and then we see all the things that we've done in this game, from killing Hades, Poseidon, all the evil, all that stuff, and then the power of hope is in us, and we just get to go smack down, beat down on Zeus's evil, just beating the living hell out of the guy as the screen itself gets all bloody. We just keep going and going and going and going and going. And then it's finally fully destroyed. The Greek pantheon is destroyed, except for Aphrodite, which I would have loved to see if she survived, because maybe she'll appear in the next game. And, because there's no way we killed Aphrodite. I mean, killed her in bed, maybe, but not in that way. This Zeus's final boss in God of War 3 definitely tops the final boss that he had in number 2. Number 2 felt like a stepping stone, a small stepping stone to a grand pathway to one of the most vicious, the most grandiose, and literal bloody, knuckle bloody boss fights ever. It's a testament to how Kratos is Kratos. He's one of the most badass characters ever. I'm not gonna lie. And the final boss of this game made the finale so rewarding, if at all bittersweet. And then we got the sequels, and yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm gonna be fully honest. I love the original series, and especially this boss fight, which is one hell of an experience. And Zeus made it all worth it and made us earn it. Oh my God. Okay, I've talked about monsters. I've talked about power-hungry monsters. I've talked about ancient deities. I talked about vengeance. What more can we want? Oh, how about one of the only human characters on this list? The Uncharted series gave us phenomenal villains, phenomenal areas. But I'm kind of a stickler for certain things. Sometimes the final entry of something gives us the best entry, give us the best of everything. Best story, best characters, best bosses, and best villains and final bosses. And this one is no different. Uncharted 4, we got Rafe. This guy is a human villain done right. A rich kid born with a silver spoon in his mouth, wanting to earn something for once in his life and demanding to get it by himself. With the help of a mercenary and her entire company, and having two thieves needing to translate some of the puzzles. Rafe starts out in the beginning of this game as our confidant and our friend who is helping us trying to look for Avery's treasure, aka James Avery, one of the greatest pirates ever done. Not including Captain Jack Sparrow. I'm just going to say, I am a man of fortune, and I must seek out my fortune. Uncharted 4 gave us one of the best puzzles in the Uncharted series and one of the best atmospheres. A pirate game where we actually get to look for treasure and there's no mythical bullshit. No ancient sarcophagus that turns people into mindless zombies. No ancient sap from the world tree that grants immortality. No genie in a bottle. We already talked about a genie in this game. But actual treasure that is realistic. Pirate captains joining forces, joining all their treasure together to create Libertalia, and then two of them kill all the others for the treasure. And then throughout the game, Rafe has been hunting for the treasure for years. And it all accumulates to one, even though it's not the number one spot, this is one of my favorite final bosses for a majority of reasons, and here it is. Finding Avery's ship in a caved off port. It's on fire, it's starting to sink with all the treasure in it. And Sam is injured, and Rafe is pointing a gun at us. And then our mercenary friend kind of double crosses him and kind of points out a very big thing about this game is that there are two skeletons on the ship, and it was Avery and two. The two guys who killed all the other pirate captains to steal their treasure. They killed each other for the gold, for the treasure. And Nadine points out that anyone who's obsessed with this treasure gets what they deserve. As she locks us in the area where instead of sucking up his gall and helping us get Sam out, he picks up a sword and takes a swing at Nate. Before we get into a great fight, he kind of talks and monologues about hearing about Nathan Drake and the legend and everything he's done, how he found the legendary El Dorado, how he fought a bunch of a warlord to Shambhala and discovered the city in the sand in the Rubelkabi desert. And also saying, I shot the man who told me that. Having to read about all of Drake's exploits made him feel insignificant because this is a rich kid who wanted something for himself, and this two-bit thief found every legend possible. But he points out a good fact. For all the bravado, for all the wisecracks, for all that Nate has done, except for all the treasure that Sully stole from El Dorado in the first game, aside from all that, Nate never really got any treasure out of all of it. The adventure was the important part of him. And that's something I will comment on when I do my video game couples list sometime, because it kind of brings a whole thing to that entry. As he swings his sword at him, and then we get our own sword. And for the first time in this game, we have to learn a new mechanic on the fly for the final fight. So, here's the best thing about this. We are on a burning, sinking pirate ship surrounded by gold and surrounded by the two pirate captains who basically killed each other out of greed, while sword fighting this rich a-hole trying to kill us. No mystical bullshit, no freaking henchmen, just him, us, sword fighting, learning how to counter the attacks and how to attack for the first time in this game. In a pirate game, we actually get to sword fight for the final boss. I'm sorry. Come here for a second. Look, I love you. We all love you. You gave us everything we could expect. But move over. This is how you do a final boss fight in a pirate game. Hell yeah! It was so intense and I died a number of times. Getting injured, not remembering how to counter correctly because of his downward slashes, his sideways slashes. All the while, banter back and forth as Nathan Drake does, pissing Rafe off all the more. And right when he gets us and we have to do a button mash section, Rafe basically insults everyone we know, saying that he's not going to let a bit of two-bit nobody thieves, a washed-up old man, and a nobody journalist. So he insults Sam, Nathan, Sully, and Elena. Okay, insulting Sully I can kind of let go. And yeah, Sam kind of deserves that. But insulting best wife in gaming? Are you out of your mind? I am not letting you out of here alive, fucker. I swear to God. And then, once we get it done, we're on the ground with our sword broken. And he basically says that his final words are, "I've earned this. All of it." And in Drake fashion, you want the treasure, Rafe? You can have it. Cuts a rope, treasure hanging up, falls on him, and he dies. No mystical bullshit. No anything stupid. Just cut, he gets his treasure, and he dies. I get an adrenaline rush just talking about this boss fight because it's the final of Nathan Drake and we get an amazing boss fight where it's actually a boss fight. Because against Navarro, we had to fight henchmen, we have to shoot him with the warlord, I can't remember his name from number 2. We have to play Catch Me If You Can and blow up the resin as he runs by it. And in number 3, I don't know what that bullshit was, but I'll get to that when I get to it next year. But this is this is the only fantastic final boss of Uncharted, and it does everything right. And I've talked about this, I think, enough. So, Rafe, great final boss, great atmosphere, having to learn a sword fighting mechanic from the get-go for the first time in the game, because we don't do it any other time in the game. So implementing that, the atmosphere, the banter, the payoff, everything. The only thing that gets it a smidge on the bottom of the top 3, oh my God, is that these 3 just have a bigger punch for emotional and amazement. But Rafe, if it weren't for these last 2, you would have been the number 2 spot. I can't get enough of this. I am mad that the company that made another one of my favorite RPG series is no more. The Mario and Luigi games is one of my favorites of the Mario license. And okay, yeah, we all know the big gag in every Mario boss, Bowser, or a version of Bowser is the final boss. But how often do we get to fight with Bowser? I am talking about Dark Bowser, and by extension, Dark Fawful in Bowser's Inside Story. the ultimate evil that was sealed away, takes on the form of Bowser after extracting bits and pieces of his DNA in order to create his ultimate monstrous form. And it's a great boss fight. We started off with Bowser using every skill he's learned, all of his minion attacks, and Dark Bowser giving us a grand fight, trapping us in an energy cage as he launches a super fire at us, where we have to break out of the cage, sending his dark minions at us, where we have to run a gauntlet by punching bullet bills, shielding against dark thwomps, punching shells, going towards him. Oh my god, and then just hammering him harder and harder. And then when we think we got him, Dark Fawful is inside of him and regenerates his health. Now here's the thing I didn't know about this boss fight. We gotta punch his stomach and make him throw up Fawful, and Fawful runs away. Then we use our vacuum ability in order to suck up the little bastard. And then it's up to Mario and Luigi fighting Fawful in his parasitic form, which is downright great. It's an amazing double boss fight. Having to destroy Fawful's legs, having to blind him by destroying his glasses, having him sink onto the earth, into the ground, which he still does his amazing attacks. From creating dark wormhole... No, wait. From using energy beams to being Fawful. It's a grand spectacle. And then after we destroy the second half of the Dark Star within Fawful, Dark Bowser is weak and ready for the ultimate fight. Well, not ultimate fight, just the final countdown, where we just hit the X button constantly and punches him multiple times until that ultimate keep hitching X and power sliding punching him as Dark Bowser is disintegrated and destroyed. Again, I'm not talking about this boss fight a lot because it's great atmosphere. We get to fight with Bowser, which honestly I thought was going to be taken away from us in the final fight for some reason. But Bowser's inside story, we finally got a game where we got to play as the menacing Koopa King himself. And they did not disappoint. A double fight having the greatest evil of the Mushroom Kingdom tied with the most insanity of the Mushroom Kingdom. Okay, here's an example. Dark Bowser with Joker. Imagine if Carnage mixed with the Joker. You get the absolute evil with the insanity. And that's what makes this fight work. And it's not revealed until after the boss fight that Bowser didn't know Mario and Luigi were inside of him the whole time helping him out. So that kind of adds a lot of comedy factor. And then right at the end, we all think that we're going to get the true final boss, which is Bowser versus the Bros. And I'm glad we don't. Dark Bowser was a fantastic villain, albeit a villain that doesn't really become great until like near the end of the whole game. But overall, still, just the amount of energy that this villain shows. It's shown in the boss fight of Bowser fighting, basically mirroring himself. And that's a really great concept that isn't used in games a lot anymore. So Dark Bowser and Fawful, you may have Fury, you may have Dark Star, but you don't have the power of unknown cooperation. Yeah, I don't really know how to end this one off. So, just go. It takes a lot for me to get emotional. Okay, in terms of video games, like if a great character that we grew to love dies, or something amazing, something unexpected happens that really hits you in the heart. it's one thing for me to obviously see what the whole thing is gonna be, but to have something I expected, but to have it feel like I didn't want to know what. Okay, I'm kind of babbling about what I'm trying to say, but what I'm trying to say is it's one thing for me to kind of foresee something happening in a way that's going to happen and not really be surprised, but it's another thing for me to be not surprised, but at the same time surprised by how they execute the emotion. And Marvel's Spider-Man 1 did it. It really did it for me. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, why didn't I put the Venom boss fight on this list? Two reasons for that. One, when I made this list, the game wasn't out. I didn't play it. I've had this list for like a year or two, so yeah. But at the same time, as great as that boss fight was, and it just didn't give me the emotions that I was expecting. This boss fight with Otto Octavius, aka Doc Ock, is one of the most emotional boss fights I've ever had to fight. From the whole revenge aspect of it, which I love, and the whole fight on top of Oscorp Tower, using everything we can to fight Doc Ock, which is amazing. Having to dodge his, and again, I've died a number of times. Like these top two boss fights, I've died a number of times before I was able to, because it's nothing that you can cheese. You have to have actual skill, which I love. And having that fight, and obviously having that mechanized armored suit for the final boss fight is phenomenal. I love that suit. The boss fight runs as generic as you can in the beginning, but then the cutscene happens, and the minute that cloth strikes Peter and he's trying to hide his face, and then, like, okay, I kind of, from the beginning when he kind of said it's obvious, and then he kind of says that if you make his equipment, you'll be a target. They had me. They had me with that, because obviously they weren't going to do the whole thing where, oh, the guy we're working for, who obviously becomes a villain, is going to know our secret identity. But no, they play it off. And even though it's a playoff that I kind of thought was a bullshit playoff, the reveal that he knew really hurt. Because he infected May, not on purpose, but infected her nonetheless. And he still went along. He still continued what he was doing. Yuri Lowenthal and William Slayer, the voice actors of these of Spidey and Ock. This is one of the most emotional fights I've ever had to go through in a video game, and it hurts. It absolutely hurts. And their acting during the cutscene and during the boss fight is, it's not like fake emotion where you can kind of tell that they're not serious, but you can feel the pain, the emotion, either one of them not wanting to lose. And this scene gets me so hard right now. Just play the clip.
Listen. You. I won't let you win. This means too much to me. Not more than it means to me.
That line not more than it means to me. That small break before he says to me and the rage he feels at when he says it's just emotion fueled, and it's amazing. And then the fight on the edge side of the building with him losing one tentacle and our web shooter's not working, so all we gotta do is dodge, counter, and attack. It's just an amazing boss fight on the side of a building that's on a slant, so it works. And as we dodge his tentacles and strike him back, the banter doesn't stop. Peter saying, we were supposed to change the world. I looked up to you. You should have been on my side. I was. You feel every bit of emotion out of these characters that is real. And it adds fuel to this amazing fire of a boss fight. And just the ending of it is emotion fueled with hate and rage and sadness. How I saw the whole thing coming, but at the same time, I felt like, okay, there's this thing for me in video games or TV shows or movies that once I can kind of see where the big reveal or the big final payoff coming, if I can see it coming, then it kind of, like when it gets there, it kind of collapses on me, so I'm not as enjoying it as I should. But this whole boss fight, I still felt the surprise. And I still felt like I didn't know what was going to happen. And it's something that rarely happens to me. So, Marvel, Insomniac, whatever the fuck you do in number 3, give us something like this. No more dying, no more villain sacrificing, no more. Give us something like this. And Yuri Lowenthal and William Slayer, you guys acted your asses off. Enough said. And now, to confuse the absolute living fuck out of all of you for my number 1 final boss. This is a final boss that had a little bit of surprise, a little bit of reveal, a little bit of emotion, a little bit of not as emotional as Doc Ock, not as grand a spectacle as Wraith or Zeus or Xemnas. So why is this number 1? Because it's a boss fight that requires no luck, all skill. And also it's a boss fight that has a great atmosphere. It's something sometimes simplicity is the best. Judgment, the spin-off of the Yakuza series, a detective game of one of my favorites. Throughout the game, we've been on the hunt for a serial killer who removes the eyes of his victims. And as he returns to his hiding hole, he dubbed him the Mole. Which is kind of dumb, but at the same time really cool. Because moles can dig out eyes, I swear to God. Throughout the game, the Mole is a menace. Wearing nothing but like a long black raincoat hoodie, covering his face, showing amazing skill. And it's not after till middle of the game where one of the enemies in the game, like one of our big bads, who's voiced by Fred Tatasciore, amazing voice actor. Love his work. After the death of the boss, our mentor and one of his mentors, he reveals that the mole is Kuroiwa. Mitsuru Kuroiwa, the mole, who is a police inspector who is also a Yakuza hitman. And the fact that I couldn't, kind of see that together, it's usually the person in power that is the whole hidden villain thing. Another prime example of that is the movie A Murdered Soul Suspect. Go play it if you like mystery games. Shameless plug, it doesn't have anything to do with this. But this guy is voiced. Also, maybe one of these days when I got a lot of time on my hands, I'll replay Judgment with the Japanese voices, because I only played it with the English because I wanted to experience that first. So I may go back and do the Japanese voices with English subtitles, obviously. But this dude is voiced by Matt Mercer. Trafalgar Law Yusuke Kitagawa is a villain that is absolutely phenomenal. Because it's usually at the reveal point of this where we would literally be wrapping up the game and going into the final boss with him. But no. We have another couple chapters of this guy being a menace. No one is believing us. And then when we put the whole conspiracy aspect of the game during trial, he gives green light on Kuroiwa. So basically, they are going to take him out because he's the evidence against them. And during rain, in the building where we're tracking him down, we get a one-on-one with Kuroiwa. And the thing about the Yakuza series and the Judgment series, there is no luck in these boss fights. There is no way to cheese them. There is no guide on how to fight them. You either have it or you don't. And that's why it's number one on the list. All the other boss fights, yeah, some of them with enough skill and with enough repetition, you will get the hang of it. But with Kuroiwa, there is no freaking time to strategize. There's no time to catch your breath. Either you go into this all in or not at all, and you're going to die a lot. It's one of those bosses that is atmospheric because of its simplicity. No grand stage, no amazing philosophy, just a hitman doing what he was supposed to do. And the funny thing is that he didn't even kill these people. The entirety of the Judgment is the development of AD9, which is a miracle drug to cure Alzheimer's. And the one sniveling little shit in this game, who is also a villain, all the people who died were people taken from Kamurocho to be experimented on. And when the experiments end in death, Kuroiwa dumps the body. So he didn't actually kill these people. And after the whole slog of an amazing hand-to-hand combat fight, we get the truth. The sniveling little jackass developing the drug is in future to suffer from this disease. So it's his own ego and delusions that he can succeed. The serum kills the person, doesn't heal them. And it turns the eyes into a dark blue pigment. And as Kuroiwa dies on the floor from a gunshot injury in our fight, he finally gets to see why. Because he was curious. Anyone affected with AD9, their eyes fill with a dark blue pigment. And that's why, I can't remember the guy's name, the scientist. And after he injects himself with the drug to test it, he finally perfected it, but he didn't. His eyes go dark and blue. It's the results of it. It's the evidence of his failure. He removed the eyes of the test subjects so that no one would know what really happened. His own failure looking back at him. So the mole didn't really kill anyone. He just dumped the bodies and heated off the investigation, being the detective or the police officer, whichever. And it's kind of deep. It's kind of, wow. The final boss that we've been hunting down isn't the full villain. So rare does that happen in a video game, and so rare does a boss fight like this have so little atmosphere, but it leads up to the boss fight. That is what makes it great. The anticipation, the curiosity, the questions of what is going on. So that's why Mitsuru Kuroiwa, the Mole from Judgment, is my #1 final boss. And even though he didn't have a huge part in the story, he definitely made the ending so freaking satisfying. And a real testament that sometimes skill in a video game is what it is. Skill. You can't cheese your way through it. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of my longest lists ever. I hope you guys enjoy the list. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And ladies and gentlemen, 2023 has been a great ride. And 2024, I hope, brings a lot more to the Game Hub and to my own personal life. Now, join me next year, where it is time for me to put some more predictions to the test, as I come up with some predictions and ideas on how the next 2 games in my favorite killer series could come to fruition. Whether it's in the feudal Japan area, or if we're taking on the witch trials with another ancient order behind the strings. This is Gamer K, logging out for the final time of 2023.